Jim and I knew each other for my whole life. We grew up in the same church, and he was a little bit older than I was. He was 3 years older than I, and we started dating when I was in high school. So to me, he's my high school sweetheart. We dated during my junior and senior years of high school, but actually he was in a junior and senior in college, so I don't know if that counts or not, but for me, he was my high school sweetheart. After I graduated from high school, I went away to nursing school, and just before I left, we got engaged. And a year later, we got married. And I really thought this was going to be forever. I was going to grow old with him. The first year we were married, he taught high school in Dearborn, Michigan, where we lived. And at the end of that year, we decided that he would follow his lifelong dream of becoming an Air Force fighter pilot. And by the time he finished fighter school, our third little baby arrived, and he got his orders to go to Vietnam. So he moved the boys and me to Michigan to be near our families while he was gone, and we all piled in the car, and all three of the boys were in diapers, and they were all under 2 years old. So it was a fun time. The night before he left, we had a long talk, as I'm sure you can imagine any couple would have before somebody was going off to war. And he really believed he wasn't coming home. And he had a long list of things that he wanted me to do. Some of the things were silly, but a few of them were pretty significant. One of those was that he wanted me to promise that I would move away from our families. And he made me promise that I would remarry. And he made me promise that whoever I remarried would love the boys enough to adopt them, because he didn't want them to go through life with a different name from mine. 10 months later, he called me and he told me that he really felt like the time was near, that he had had some close calls along the way, and he really felt like the time was near, and he was ready to go be with the Lord, but he just really needed to know that I was going to be okay without him. 2 weeks after that conversation, 2 weeks to the day, my doorbell rang. And that's when the chaplain and an Air Force officer came to my door to tell me that his airplane had been shot down by a surface-to-air missile. I knew that the Lord loved me, and I knew that he had a plan for my life, and I knew that he'd take care of me. But at that point in my life, I didn't have a clue how big our God was. I didn't have any idea what a great God we have. And I thought there were so many people in the world who had so many problems that were so much bigger than my problems, that while the Lord loved me and he knew I was going around okay, and if I really got in trouble, he'd pick me up, I really thought I had to get through this loss by myself. And God was incredibly faithful to bring people into my life over and over again to remind me that he was there, and to remind me that he never left my side, and that in fact he loved me like as though I were the only person left on earth. Because I was adopted by his old squadron, Tom, my second husband, came back from his second tour in Vietnam, and he was in that squadron. And we met, an old friend of Jim's introduced us. And this is an aside, but he forgot to tell Tom that I had 3 babies. Minor detail. But he told him he really ought to meet me, and he didn't tell him about the kids. Anyway, we met, and we were married, and as I had promised Jim, Tom adopted the boys. To me, it looked like Tom and I were going to spend the rest of our life and be happy and live a long time. We were both healthy, and I thought my dream was we were going to be sitting one day and really retire on our front porch, holding hands in well-worn rocking chairs, and that was just my dream. But that wasn't God's plan for us. And in 1998, on my birthday, Tom was diagnosed with melanoma, and it was just a tiny little spot under his toenail, but by even then it had already spread to his groin, and within a month he had his toe amputated, his diseased lymph nodes were removed, and we began a really long battle of fighting this disease in hopes of a cure, but ultimately he lost that fight. On my birthday, again, 5 years later, he went to be with the Lord. God never left our side. He gave us both the peace that passes all understanding. He held us in his arms when we didn't have anything left but exhaustion. And it was a good 5 years. So I felt very blessed. And God is really unbelievably good. So how did I feel? I guess I'm pretty simple-minded. I never once was angry with God. I never once questioned him. Why are you doing this? And I think that the reason is because he prepared me for everything along the way. He never let go of me, even when I thought I had to do it on my own. He never let go of me. He never let me fall off the deep end anywhere. Although my walk wasn't perfect, although I'd like to tell you I never stumbled and fell, I did. But still, he was always there. And I always knew it. And so, because of that, it was always okay. I didn't like that the love of my life was going to be killed. I didn't like that the next love of my life died. I really thought we'd grow old together. I really thought this couldn't happen twice. But when it did, I knew God was bigger than anything that I could imagine. And it would be okay. So I started dating. My friends set me up with family and friends, and I even did eHarmony. But I gotta tell you, dating was not the same as it was in high school. It was a lot more fun in high school. So I prayed that if the Lord wanted me to spend the rest of my life single, that he would help me to be content. But I was also praying that if he had somebody in mind for me, that when I saw this person, I would know. And once again, God is so faithful. He walked into the room. I was across the room. I had no clue who he was. I looked over at him, and I knew immediately. And in my heart, I just said, Lord, he's the one, isn't he? And as they say, after that, the rest was history. It was just a few months later, we were married. So I'm praying that this is the one I get to grow old with. A lot of things in our life we take for granted. And when there are, I don't want to call them tragedies, but when there are very emotional things that happen in your life, all of a sudden God gets fine-tuned in your vision and in your hearing and in your heart. You start seeing things that you hadn't looked at in a while, and hearing things from him that you'd been missing or glossed over or got too busy in your own life to remember to stop and pay attention to. I think that God has a plan for my life, and his plan is perfect. It may not be the one that I were writing if I were writing the book, and obviously it hasn't been. There have been some surprises along the way, but he's a much better writer than I am. And even when I don't know what's going on, I know that He's perfect. And that works for me. I know. I just know. I just know that I know that I know. And there isn't anything that I can do that's going to make Him stop loving me. No matter how many times I fall, which I try not to and I hope not to, but I do. He's my God, and He's there.